Alright. Alright, light. I don't like rhyming, I never like rhyming. I'm sitting here, and I was, hello. How are you doing? Midnight Charlie Man Patrick. A bit low on energy tonight. Not that great. Low on energy. Had something in my mind, which had spurned off that, last video that I did. For some reason, just then I thought of Dawn of the Dead. Maybe I should review that soon. Maybe I should talk about review. The reason why I use the word review is because it takes too long to type in. These are just my thoughts, and review attracts more attention. Evil Dead 2013. When I was speaking about, I watched it earlier. About 13 hours ago I watched it, and I wasn't very comfortable. Get a few things in my mind tonight. After I made the video, I was thinking about the components of movies and things, and why we enjoy certain movies. I'm just listening to Black Sabbath, 1976, Megalomaniac Architect, live. It's really good. I've heard it a few times now. I'm listening to it, and I was actually just listening to a Myth Vision podcast, one of the latest ones. And in my head, I was filming this in my head, and why we like particular eras of movies. What makes them tick? What makes them appealing? What's the connection? Why are we drawn to them? Why do we like them? And obviously, many people have the different opinions, and I'm thinking about, once again, I'm not stuck for words, but I'm thinking about 4 things at once. I'll just start on one of them. For instance, why are we drawn to movies? Why I'm drawn to movies. I won't speak for everyone. Why I'm drawn to movies of the past. And I was thinking about this very thing after I uploaded today. Why do I keep thinking about Dawn of the Dead? I keep going to say Dawn of the Dead. The original was quite good. The remake, which was done in the 90s, or the early zeros, was quite good. I enjoyed that. In fact, I think I saw the remake first, and I went back to the original and really enjoyed the original. And there's a movie called Dead Snow. And why are these titles popping into my head instead of Evil Dead? My brain does that. Dead Snow is a good movie. Dead Snow 2 is a black comedy. It's quite funny. And if I rewatch that again soon, then I'll talk about, might make a video about it. Off track, sort of. After I had uploaded today, I was thinking about those aspects. I was thinking about those things. What is it? Well, it's a combination of things. The culture at the time. Language. Also comes down to the lighting, comes down to the actors, it comes down to the director. Why do we like them? Why do we like certain movies? Why do we consider that certain movies are classics for? Because we were affected by them at the time, and it's part of popular culture at the time. And also the 70s were a different time. I'm a 70s child. I have more recollection of the 80s though, but I do remember a little bit of this. I remember a fraction of the 70s. Not a great deal, but a little bit, enough. I remember watching, I remember my mum would be in the kitchen, and I'd be, this is something I wasn't going to say, but those words come to me. to try to make a point, And I would be in the lounge room, and the midday movie would be on. And one time there was a particular midday movie on, talking about a boat at the dock. I don't know what it was, and I saw it, and I was like, oh, I'd like to do that. Like, watching the movie, I was like, I'd like to somehow I want to do that. I was about 4, 5, I'm watching it, and I'm like, oh, if I could do that, that'd be terrific. And then each movie that I would see after, I'd be like, oh, if I could do that, that'd be good. Felt magical. So, what it is that when, like, movies from the 70s, why do people like them? Well, because they have a connection to that. Because at the time when they saw that movie, they took their girlfriend or their boyfriend to the drive-in theatre and they saw it with them, and perhaps a song off that soundtrack would come on the radio at the time, and at the time they were having a great time. And then that's an association, have an association with things. And as they were going through their life experiences, this movie was a part of that. Perhaps they went to the drive-in theatre a few times. Maybe they saw it at the cinema 10 times, and then it would come on TV, family night in front of the TV, and it would come on. It was part of the culture, and our memories are associated with it. This and for instance, I don't even know if I'm going to upload this. I'm just sitting here thinking about it. I'm not even upload. The 70s had a very particular air about them, particular feeling, and also when actors, movie stars, are able to convey a certain emotion and give a truthful depiction of a character. Also, at the end of the day, it can come down to editing. The director is involved in the managerial aspects of calling action is 1/100th of the aspects of the job, of the responsibility. Lighting, do you have, and not do you have good lighting? Well, what do you want for that scene? What's involved? How do you want it to look? What are you looking for? What are you aiming at? How do you want the audience to feel? How do you feel it in your mind? Like, you've got a vision. The director, what vision does the director have in his head? And the people around him, the lighting guy and the sound guy and the cinematographer guy, do they understand the director? He or she, do they understand them? And are they able to transfer that? Are they able to transition that from... Are they able to transition? Are they able to make that happen on film? And hello, an interjection here. I'm putting this through StockCut now. It's all about, and also about the fashion at the time. The 70s had a very particular fashion about them, and the movie stars of the 70s, the actors of the 70s, they had a certain charm. They had a lot of charm, and they brought their own history to it, and so people connected to that. And as time passed, and the more movies that you see, and you relate that to your own experiences, and quite often the movie star, the person who's in the movie, they now have a background too. You've developed some kind of connection to them. They represent something to you, whether it be the hero or the villain. They have a particular character, they have a particular charisma about them, they have a particular personality about them which they bring to that role. And that is significant. It holds a great deal of meaning and it comes down to, it does come down to charisma and how they light up the screen and the storytelling of it. And I haven't made this point yet, but Jeff Burr, the director of Texas Chainsaw 3, he hated that film. He didn't like everything about it. He didn't like. And I understand that totally. I actually enjoy it. I actually think it's good. It's not a well-made film, but there's certain aspects of it. The African American guy, I really like him, and I wish that more time had been no, but it's a very interesting movie. But all these films of the 70s, it comes down to fashion and dialect at the time. That's what it comes down to as well. How they were filmed, the lighting, the intention, and what vision they were going for, what they wanted to convey to the audience, how they conveyed what they wanted to convey to the audience, and then that gets set in time, and people connect to it. People connect to the actors in the movie. They connect to that. They associate with it, and over time, it gains meaning over time. It gains meaning. So, I drink to your leg, you drink to my leg, we'll drink to our legs. I'm gonna slice that in there now, because I forgot to say that just before. And I stopped filming just before. I'm like, I was just pondering things. No, I was just pondering things while I was putting the Mythvision video. And yeah, I'm going to slice this in now. The 1970s movies had a very particular flavour and feel about them. I keep thinking about The Exorcist, Jaws, Deliverance, Mary Poppins. I was thinking about Mary Poppins often. Mary Poppins actually scared me. When I saw it properly, it scared me. I thought it was a horror movie. But more so is because people refer back to these movies because so much time has passed. It's a history of things. Time has passed. People have had many life experiences, and those movies are a part of their experiences growing up. Now, the latest movies to come out, the very latest movies to come out, there's nothing but there's no experience behind them. The only experience behind them is that there's actors who have been around for 40 years who are starring in them, and then you've got their history, their background. But if it's not that, if it's new actors of the newer generation, and say a movie was made in 2018 with brand new actors, it very possibly going to potentially appear flat and dry, depending. And sometimes, a lot of the time, it can come down to editing, lots to do with the lighting, the direction to a certain extent, and the photography. If the cinematographer understands the director, and if the actors are in sync. The thing is that, as I said, a movie that comes out in 2019 or 2020, there's no history there. Well, not necessarily. People haven't developed memories of it yet. People don't associate it with anything yet. You can watch it and say, okay, that was well done. And then you say, oh, you know what, now I feel like watching Jaws. I feel like watching Out of Africa. I haven't seen Out of Africa properly. Robert Redford and Robert Redford and Meryl Streep. And Beaches with Barbara Streisand. Is it Barbara Streisand or Bette Midler? I haven't seen that properly. always going to refer back to the 70s and the 80s, or I tend to skip the 50s for some reason. And one of my favourite eras is the 30s, because there's so much history there. It's a history. It's part of popular culture. Everything's there. All the flavours are there. All the curves are there. All the meanings are there. All the romanticism and flamboyance is there, but you don't have that necessarily have that there with the newer movies. But there are some well-made ones. I was just thinking about it. I was thinking about this stuff before. I was just thinking about it. I was contemplating it, and I remember Robert Zemeckis. He said that Back to the Future 3. Back to the Future 3 he said 2 and 3 suffered, 3 the most, because filmed back to back, and while he was filming 3, while he was doing something, he said, what was it? And I can see the mistakes in number 3. One of them suffered greatly, because he was getting on a plane from Los Angeles to New York at the end of the week, or for the weekend. On the Friday, he'd fly from Los Angeles to New York and edit 2 while he was still making 3. But then he said he was also doing something new while he was editing 3. And he said it suffered greatly because that. He said I should have taken more time. And the movie. He said the movie suffered tremendously because of that. Jeff Burr, who directed the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 in 1990, came out in 1990, and he wanted his name taken off the credits because he said, I don't want anything to do with this piece of shit. And I actually liked it. It's a fun movie. It's a very interesting movie. Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 3. Not too many people know about it. Understandably so. It's an interesting movie. It's fairly rough around the edges in some parts, dreadfully rough around the edges. And every time I watch it, I'm like, because I like the forest part, the swamp parts. And other parts of it, I'm like, I'm not watching this again. This is the last time I'm watching it until the next time I watch it. And it's usually about, tends to be a year in between. And many of the movies that I will watch that I don't think are great, it's because of the editing. Sometimes it's to do with the acting, and a lot of the time it's to do with the editing. Mainly editing, mainly acting, and many things that I might call mistakes. So here I am. Actually, I'm leading up to a conclusion in shortcut, and at this point I would say I get mostly disappointed. The main component of my disappointment in movies is the acting, and one big example is Breakdown with Kurt Russell. I don't remember his co-star in that. I could look it up. I don't really need to look. I won't look it up. 1990s movie, Breakdown. Have you seen it? Kurt Russell. The first couple of times I saw it, I was totally engaged by it, totally captivated by it. And I've seen it about 8 times now over the years. And then a few years ago, I hadn't seen it for a while, and then a few years ago I watched it again. And I gotta say, it's Kurt Russell's worst acting job ever. It's miserably terrible. It is not a classic movie. In fact, it's one of those, when I watch it, I'm like, oh, this is everything you wouldn't do. Every scene it's like, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. Like the decision that the characters make in the movie. It's mainly all the decisions and all the actions that happen in the movie, and Kurt Russell's awful acting. So a lot of I just said editing, yes, but a lot of the time comes down to acting. Yeah. But look, new movies movies that are made, new movies that come out. Some of them are terrific. Some of them can be really terrific, and some of them can be awful. It depends. Back to what I was saying. Okay, back to what I was saying. Would come down to, I say, well, the director should have pushed the actor more on that. Should have pushed the actor a lot more. Someone should have said, we need to do this again. We need to do this a different way. This is not working. That happened with Sylvester Stallone. I think it was on Demolition Man. He was in an interview. And he said some of the directors were scared of me. And finally he said, please don't spare my feelings. You need to tell me, because I gotta live with this. I gotta live with it. So if it sucks, tell me. Say it sucks, and we'll do it again. He said, because I've got to live with this. And from my perspective, while we're watching something, I turn greatly. I turn greatly to 1970s movies. And the 1980s movies. It's a vastly different. I have a friend of mine, Dick Mara, and sometimes I say, oh, I watched this movie, it was made in 2015, I watched another movie, it was made in 2015, it was terrible. She's like, Pat, you always do this. She doesn't watch anything after the year 2000, nothing after the year 2000, well, she totally avoids them. And she's like, she said, you have a habit of this, you watch all these newer movies, and you don't like them. And she says, it's the 80s and the 90s and the 70s. And it turns out, that my favourite movies are from the majority of my favourites are from the 1970s. I mean, one of my very first experiences. Walking into a video store, into a VH video store, was at Burwood. I remember seeing Charlie, a cardboard cutout of Charlie Chaplin. I remember seeing the poster for Jaws and being quite captivated by that. Actually, it was all magical. Suddenly there was all these VHS around, large VHS cassette, these large tapes, with nice big cover on them, and a shop full of VHS. It was like movie wonderland, and especially about the fact to get in its pure form. Because on TV they chop it to bits on TV for censorship. And then you've got the ads. So finally, when the VHS revolution arrived, we got to see everything in its pure form. It was amazing. And then I might wrap it up here. I kind of conveyed everything that I wanted to, that I was intending to. There's some more thoughts. I think I conveyed myself about 60% accurately. I was just thinking why people are attracted to certain eras of movies, and why people are attracted to, and even in the movies that maybe aren't so great, it's the atmosphere of the old movies. It's the time they were made. Okay, so I'm not going to put the I'm mostly in the dark, so I'm not going to put the light on. That's where the film ran out. Like, my actual memory ran out just before, because I hadn't deleted enough things. And so I'm going to wrap it up. I do tend to, the 1980s movies are vastly different, totally different in style to the 1970s movies. And I do get attracted somewhat to the 1970s. So, that was some thoughts. I would decide to just talk about it, and I'll wrap this one up here, and we'll wrap it up. I'm at the, where's my goggles? It's in shortcut. That's at the 23-minute mark. 23:44. I'll wrap it up. If you've been listening, if you got this far, I really do. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for listening. If you have some thoughts on this, if you'd like to share your thoughts, get some light here. Look, here's the light. Down here in my corner of light. So if you have some if you've got some thoughts, please put them in the comment section. And yeah, do that. That'd be cool. And if you have been, look, if you stuck all the way through this video, it's terrific. I do appreciate it. Thank you so much. Midnight Charlie Man Patrick, and probably I think I will upload it. And what's all the stuff for? Someone saw a cockroach up on living. That must be one big cockroach. Bite your head off, man. Okay. Alright, here we go. That's it. I'll wrap it up. Thank you.